We're starting from scratch on a flat map. To begin, we only have mowers, shovels, and everyone has their own pickup truck. In this episode, Farming Genius is with me, and he'll help me reach my goal. And what exactly is that goal? I'll tell you right now. Our aim is to create gigantic fields, construct numerous factories, build enormous animal pens, and naturally, make millions of dollars. Basically a mega farm, but right now, we have absolutely nothing. That's why I'm getting started on selling grass so I can invest the money in our first item, which will be a wheelbarrow. A $50 wheelbarrow. Thanks to it, I won't have to run to the selling point with a shovel every time, but can just throw everything in the wheelbarrow and sell larger quantities. As you can observe, the account balance has slightly increased, and yet I haven't actually sold a single thing. Allow me to clarify why this is occurring. It's because Farming Genius and I are operating on a single farm, which means we are collaborating, pooling our earnings into one account, sharing the same land. Essentially, it's one unified farm. We're working together on one farm, and we're going to build a true farming empire. I managed to gather all the grass, I'm loading it onto the wheelbarrow and heading off to sell it. The money I earn will enable me to rent a tractor and also a mower, which is great. The choice fell on the IMT 539 tractor and Lizard Medusa mower. Thanks to these purchases, mowing the grass will go much faster. You can clearly see it yourselves, there's just no comparison to that push-along manual mower. Sadly, we just didn't have enough money yet to acquire a self-loading trailer, so I still must wield this shovel. I still need to load everything onto the wheelbarrow and then go sell it all. But that's all about to change very soon, because Farming Genius has already rented a tractor, he's already rented a tractor. All that's missing now is the self-loading trailer. I'm off to sell the grass. A full load, 100%. This time I managed to earn $168. That's somehow more than last time. My helper is also currently on his way to sell grass and is renting a self-loading trailer. The pace here is immense. So, if you'd like to see the other perspective, specifically Farming Genius's point of view, there's a link in the description leading to his channel, and more precisely, to this very video. I also urge you to subscribe to his channel, and mine, and in the interim, I've managed to fill the self-loading trailer to its full 100% capacity. A full trailer of grass. We sell it, and the account has $2,541. But not for very long, because I just spent $2,000 on a purchase this time. A purchase, not a rental. Of a mower. A mower that's larger, wider, and has a higher speed limit, which helps us get the work done quicker and quicker, mowing the grass at an ever-increasing pace. We'll have the means to upgrade our equipment. Our initial small objective is to commence silage production. That's because a lot of money can be earned from this endeavor, certainly more than from simply mowing grass. However, it does require a bit of capital for initial investments. So, what exactly will we be needing for this? We will definitely need a round baler and a baler wrapper to tightly seal everything up, allowing it to properly ferment. As you may have also noticed, in the meantime, Farming Genius invested money in a tedder, a specialized machine for raking grass into rows, which allows for a much quicker collection of all the material. You didn't see that on my end, so I'll remind you, the link to Farming Genius's perspective is in the description. And of course, write something nice for him in the comments. For example, you could write to him, "You're really great at mowing grass, keep up the awesome work," and mention your country, since this video has been translated and dubbed. I hope the dubs are good quality. You can let me know in the comments, of course. And while that's happening, I'm renting a tractor, specifically a tractor for the baler that Farming Genius rented previously, and I'm getting started on making bales. If you've been paying close attention, you've certainly noticed that bale wrapper. So, silage production is going to kick off real soon, but not just yet. We urgently need money right now, as fast as possible for investments. And the silage? Well, that needs to ferment, and that's going to take a little bit of time. If you'd also like to play on this map, or any of my other maps, and utilize the modifications that we're currently using, you'll find absolutely everything available on my Patreon. There's a comprehensive list of 3,500 mods, and honestly there are probably even more than that available right now. Everything's available for my patrons to download, you're warmly invited, and additionally there's still a 25% discount ongoing on Patreon, so it's definitely worth taking advantage of. Just a moment has passed, and the grass is already mowed, the rows are formed, the bales are made, and now it's time to move on to selling the bales. So I pull up in the pickup, load the first bale onto the bed, and now for the moment of truth, how much money for just one? $649 for one bale, so I'm loading up the second, selling it, then bale number 3 is loaded, I'm heading out to sell it, and then on to the next one. I'm thinking I should also sell off the gear I won't be using anymore, especially those items I purchased with cash during the game's early stages. That will definitely free up some money. As you can see, the balance has already surpassed 6150, which is pretty good. That unused equipment gave us a pretty substantial cash injection, even though Farming Genius had also spent some money on a cultivator and started working on a field. So, I'm going to rent a seeder, grab some seeds, get some fertilizer, and then I'll organize this area a bit so these machines aren't just left standing haphazardly in the middle of the lawn. It's time to wrap the bales, but I also need to check on how the field is coming along. How's the field creation going? It's going great. It's going great. In fact, 50% of it has already been accomplished. In a moment we can start the seeding process. I'm still not sure what I'll plant here, but I'll need to make a decision very soon. Farming Genius, in the meantime, started mowing grass to create even more silage bales. These would then ferment until the next day, which will fast forward through, or more accurately, skip ahead by several months, because here it actually takes months. As you can see, I've already gotten started with the seeding process, and we are planting wheat. I figure that's a pretty standard choice to kick things off. It's nothing terribly special. We won't get a huge amount of money from this, but perhaps we could invest in some chickens, or something along those lines. Farming Genius has already nicely mowed a pretty large area for us here. He also invested in a slightly larger mower, which you might have spotted, since you could see him in the background somewhere, diligently mowing away. I'm going to make some rows here, then we'll have to bale and wrap all of this up. Yeah, we're going to get a lot of bales from a piece this size. This is going to be a pretty nice cash injection. The next day, or rather the next month, when we get to sell all of this. Alright, let's get right into baling and wrapping these up. The quicker we manage to finish all of this, the sooner we'll be able to go to sleep, patiently await the coming months, and begin selling off these fermented bales. And there's actually going to be quite a lot of it. I'm thinking about $100,000 should be collected from selling all the bales. Well, it depends on how much I manage to haul in with the self-loading trailer. And the reason I'm selling it this way is that we'll definitely need some money for the leases once those months required for fermentation have passed. Well, our leases, fees and all those expenses will unfortunately eat up quite a significant chunk of our earnings, so I'll be sure to sell off some more of this grass using this method. I think around 7,000 should definitely be enough to cover the maintenance of our machines for these next few months. Let's check on that. Let's check how much money we've got left. We've got 1,800 remaining, so we are definitely not in the red. Perfect. And now, 3,000 for every single bale. So you can compare it. $650 for unfermented grass versus $3,000 for that same amount of grass, but fermented as a silage bale. That's a pretty substantial difference, wouldn't you agree? We sold about 10 bales, and I decided to get myself a tractor equipped with a front loader, a counterweight, and a trailer that would allow me to load these bales more efficiently, just to make things more interesting. It will definitely look much better than relying purely on manual strength. You know, one can do it a bit differently. It's not a realistic game, at least I don't play realistically, but to add some variety to the gameplay, I decided to manually collect these bales myself. Farming Genius was also loading bales, but with a slightly different type of loader, one that hitches to the back of the tractor. He simply wanted to avoid the hassle and struggle of using that front loader. However, it's not that simple, especially with this particular trailer. It's quite difficult to load here because I didn't opt for the version that has open sides. As you can see, the total is $76,500. Therefore, we can afford to rent a combine, yes, a combine, and start the harvest immediately, because this wheat absolutely must be reaped. In the meantime, Farming Genius has rented a suitable trailer, one onto which we'll be able to unload all of the harvested grain. And if you're wondering why we rented this combine and trailer instead of purchasing them, then you have your answer right now. We require funds for essential investments. The initial investment naturally involves beautifying the surrounding area and acquiring a chicken coop, into which I can now deposit all the seeds that have been diligently gathered. The wheat is being harvested. I'll mow some grass now. We keep switching tasks, that's why we're jumping around. 1 minute I'm mowing grass, the next I'm harvesting grain, then I'll do something else. So we just divide the responsibilities among ourselves to ensure fairness. As you can see, the wheat field harvest is complete. I'm currently unloading the grain tank into the trailer, and the combine harvester is now parked in a spot I created by simply scattering a pile of gravel. If you're still tuning in and watching, I would really encourage you to drop a comment below. You could write something like pile of gravel, or just that you're still watching at the 10-minute mark. Any activity is good. Hopefully it will boost the YouTube algorithm and show this video to a wider audience. And I've just dropped $40,000 on a sheep pen. I've delicately decorated the area, laid down some paths, and now it's time to acquire the sheep specifically, 100 of them. Perfect. I managed to fill the pen to 100%, and I still have 6,800 left in my account. However, we now need to make sure these sheep are fed properly. That's why I'm making neat rows, and I'll start gathering this grass in just a moment. However, for gathering the grass, I'd prefer to use a baler that specifically makes those rectangular bales. I just need to keep driving, no need to stop, and the bales will pop right out. It's perfect. This is my first choice when it comes to feeding animals. I always feed the animals with square bales because they're so convenient for me to make. I really don't like having to stop constantly, meticulously making sure I don't go too far or miss even a small patch of grass. Everything here operates autonomously. Farming Genius handled the baler for me, freeing me to focus on mapping out the field where potatoes will ultimately be planted. I specify planted because, as you're aware, potatoes are always planted, not merely sown as seeds. You might be wondering why such a small field. Well, let me explain. The starting equipment we have for harvesting and planting potatoes is genuinely tiny. It's really minuscule, and it takes an awful lot of time to get things done. We'll have to see if this is even going to be profitable eventually. Based on my calculations, these potatoes should indeed turn a profit. Things ought to work out quite well. However, I'm not entirely sure, so it's a bit of an experiment really. That's why we're going to use small, and most importantly, affordable equipment. The in-game default equipment is really quite expensive, so we're opting for something more budget-friendly. But that's enough talk about these potatoes, at least for the time being. You see, I harvested half the field, fed the animals, providing them with a significant amount of grass. The remaining portion I'm wrapping in foil to earn some profit from the silage. I've made up my mind to construct a mill, which will cost me $20,000. A flour mill, so we'll be able to process wheat and other grains to produce flour right here. Meanwhile, as I was wrapping bales and mowing the grass, Farming Genius went ahead and hired a worker to plant the potatoes. More than half of the field is already taken care of. Fortunately, a worker can handle it because it is truly a very tedious process. It takes forever and it's boring. There's nothing interesting about it at all. The first delivery of wheat has arrived at the mill, so we're starting flour production in full swing. I have to rent another tractor because I have nothing to mow the grass with. The tractor that is left is too weak, and Farming Genius is using the other one. So I decided to mow just this small section, just to quickly take care of everything before we jump a few months ahead in time. And we're gonna skip ahead a few months now, because we need the bales to ferment, the potatoes to fully grow, and the animals to produce their wool, specifically the sheep, of course. And of course the chickens need to lay eggs for us. This time I'm making the bales, and Farming Genius is wrapping. Everything's going very smoothly for us. Just a few more bales to go, and then we'll be ready to travel through time. I'm genuinely concerned our account balance will sharply drop into the negative because of all these leases and fees, but let's just check it out. Honestly, I was expecting things to be much worse than they turned out to be. We're only $1,300 in the red, but Farming Genius is already collecting the bales and will be selling them shortly. And just as I predicted, almost $100,000 has just landed in the account from selling the bales, the eggs, and all the wool, everything we managed to produce, every last bit of it. I'm hooking up the seeder right now and we'll get a worker going, sowing wheat on that field we prepared earlier. Our potatoes are ready for harvest at this very moment. As you can see, the worker is trimming the stalks and leaves, making them ready for the combine harvester to collect, which I'll need to acquire very soon. Next door, Farming Genius is raking rows of cut grass in the field, and I think this is the ideal moment to head to the store and purchase, or perhaps better yet, rent a potato harvester. This is exactly how it looks. It might not boast a very broad working width, but it's ample for what we require. This field is microscopic anyway, really, truly microscopic in size. Of course, we're going to process the potatoes properly. We won't just sell them as they are. So I'm taking the initial shipment, the first 5,000 liters, and I'll need to invest a little bit of money into it. A little bit? Well, in fact, I'd say quite an awful lot. $80,000 invested into a factory, a potato processing facility. You can produce potato chips, French fries, and other similar items there. I believe that this will enable us to generate significantly more income compared to merely selling potatoes directly to the collection center. At least, I certainly hope that's the case, because it would be a real shame to waste that $80,000, plus all the other money spent on equipment. And honestly, I'm anticipating a significant upside, a substantial profit from this investment. I'm also going to improve the terrain slightly and expand our little plot of land. I'd like to put some garages here, but, well, I don't have the money. Especially for buildings that don't generate a profit. I've arranged the machines in the yard so it looks somewhat presentable. This is definitely better than having everything scattered all over the map. Before we can once again fast forward in time by a few months, we still have a tremendous amount of work ahead of us, much grass to cut, and a great deal of wrapping and silage preparation. But before we get into all of that, I'll just clear a nice small path for myself right here. It's really starting to look much better, and I'll immediately take advantage of this little path to reach the field where the potatoes were previously grown. Now, we'll be sowing wheat in this very spot. For now, I'm not planting any potatoes here because I simply want to observe how that factory will perform to see if it will be profitable for us or not. Then, I'll make a decision whether I want to plant more potatoes or perhaps completely abandon them and sell the factory. My assistant has already raked the grass that was on this field, so I'm going to start making grass bales, which we'll later use to feed the animals with. If you look closely, you can see Farming Genius in the background, who has started outlining a new field. Most likely we'll also sow wheat there, so we can deliver all of it to the mill. There's just one more row of grass to collect, and then I can proceed to the next task. My assistant left me some tasks here to complete. I need to finish working on this field now. It's quite a pleasant and profoundly satisfying experience to just sit back and observe a new field taking shape like this. It really progresses smoothly, especially given the accelerated speed at which you're viewing it. Alright, that's taken care of. I'm going to grab the tedder and rake up the grass that Farming Genius cut for me here, and in the meantime, I'll also be setting up a greenhouse. It costs $10,000 plus a $3,000 tank that automatically fills the greenhouse with water. So I've invested a total of $13,000 in these greenhouses. They yield really good returns, paying for themselves swiftly. So I simply decided to spend the money on it while I still possessed it, because, as you can clearly observe, it vanishes from the account at a remarkably rapid pace. We've already played for about 6 hours. The farm is really starting to look like something now. Everything's picking up speed, and we're starting to earn more and more. The fields will also grow larger, and there will be many more workers. Everything is accelerating. We're getting closer and closer to those millions of dollars and that huge farm. At least, that's how it appears. It's time for a bit of time travel, so we've propelled ourselves forward several months. Our balance has shrunk by 10,000, yet we still have an abundance of items available for sale. Subscribe and stay tuned for upcoming episodes, they'll be here very soon.